and welcome back once again to Belmont Bunch. And today we are starting our new series, which we hope will be every single week. And I will promise now that it won't. No, it will.
Yeah,
This
already
is the
jinxed it. It's ruined.
weekly. This is the weekly wrap up. So we have our recap videos, and now we wanted to do something a little bit longer form. Because we just want to throw content out there until something sticks. James, introduce yourself.
Yes, hello. I'm James. Thank you for introducing me, Tom. I'm the editor, producer, all around just best guy at Belmont Bunch.
Yeah,
And,
agreed.
thank you. And I won it. We voted on it. I was the winner. And so
I did stop the count though a couple
yeah, but
times.
the winner prevailed.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we're gonna aim to get these out every Thursday morning, probably, because it looks like the Islanders don't really have games on Wednesdays. So really just be like every Thursday morning, we'll record them on Wednesdays, post them on Thursdays. And if you want to get involved, leave a comment down below. Like, we love to talk to Isles fans all the time. So anyway, this week we had 3 games so far, right? Yep. And Tom, how'd they go?
A little bit of everything. We'll call it the good, the bad, and the ugly. Because that was kind of exactly what this week was. We start off with probably one of the best ever opening game performances I've ever seen out of the Islanders, where they torch the Rangers 4-0. It was 3-0 after one. They made Tony DeAngelo go back to the taxi squad, and I adored that. Generally, everything went right. Everything. And then game 2, literally nothing goes right. Like, we have Varlamov get hurt in warmups. We have, at first you're like, oh, I don't like that. But now,
Sorokin, was that supposed to be my reaction? I don't like that.
But, that game could not have gone worse. So you get your starting goalie hurt, and now that we know that he started again after, we're fortunate he didn't get he's not worse for wear. But then Pulock took a shot to the ear, and I don't know if you saw, but he had to get his ear basically reattached via I almost said stitches.
Was it that bad?
It was bad. He took a wrist shot. Luckily, it was a wrist shot directly to the ear, and it looked like it was bleeding right from the start. And I'm like, all right, so this season is quickly falling apart. And now he is okay. And then the Boston. So that was the ugly. And the bad was the Boston game. Even though they win, the Islanders can't score. We're averaging one. I know it's 3 games.
I have a different opinion than you.
Sure.
On this one. Because I thought, it was definitely a frantic game and all that stuff. But the fact that we were able to hold off the Bruins, I felt like both teams, I guess, were kind of not a little bit have their best performance.
Yeah.
But so overall, I was fine with that because we won. But obviously, it could have just as easily gone the other way. We got I felt like the goal we got from Pajot was that was pretty lucky.
It was a weird one.
Incredibly,
it was a real weird one.
His table tennis skills came in on that one.
Yep, it all comes back around full circle.
But anyway, so what was the rest of your thoughts on that game?
Generally that we played really, really badly, offensively, defensively. So I can't say it was horrible because we saw what horrible was, and it was the Ranger game. But the Boston game, it was tighter defensively than the Ranger game, and it was just as bad of an offensive performance, until middle of the third, where we started getting chances. Bailey set Beauvillier on a breakaway that got stopped. And it started to feel like we got something going, but it was late. And the Isles currently are not in a great position depth-wise. Josh Bailey's on the COVID protocol today. He missed practice. That doesn't mean he tested positive. That means that he is in protocol. And he played the other day. So that is worrying because how we've seen how quickly, one guy's got it. Oh, the whole team has it. The Dallas Stars haven't played a game yet because of it. So that is worrying. And the good thing is now that he's in protocol, they have him separated from the rest of the team. And so hopefully that means, they've cut it off at the source.
Yeah.
He might not even have it. So would be, great if he doesn't.
Is there any word on he was just exposed probably or something? Or?
Yeah. I mean, the NHL, early on with these, they tend to be very quiet about it. It seems where they just say he's on the protocol. Like you don't go. It's like a special list this year, kind of like baseball had a special list for it, where like if the guy's been exposed, he doesn't go to injured reserve. But that's why we have the taxi squad this year. So like Kiefer Bellows and Oliver Wahlstrom probably get more chances now if Bailey doesn't play. Bellows today practiced on the second line, which is funny because we had just sent him back to the taxi squad, and now it's like, oh, right back up. And that's what this year is going to be like for a lot of teams, which is unfortunate. But I'm thankful that they have hockey, and I just want them to make sure that it doesn't completely, get off the rails in terms of COVID.
Yeah, what's just kind of speaking then of Bellows, because he switched. I didn't know he was playing. Like I haven't looked at any hockey news today, but because Barzal was on the third line,
Yeah,
right. Pajot was on the first.
That was a little bit of punishment during the second game.
Yeah, because he went to the box 3 times.
Yeah, Barzal took 3 penalties.
Were they stupid? Were they like bad penalties? Like I thought, like maybe one. What was it? One of them was holding. I think one was probably slashing. I think there was a hook something
in there.
Oh yeah. I think So like I don't know, like maybe not like the worst penalties, but it just sucks that I guess it happened 3 times. I don't know. What do you think?
I think it's not always this is the case, but a lot of those like restraining penalties, holding, hooking, tripping, stuff like that. Typically, I think coaches will say that's a lazy penalty because that means you weren't skating with the guy, you weren't in the right position. So like usually the coach would say you put yourself in the position to take that penalty. And I think that's, I think part of it, dropping him to the third line because of that is more so, I think Trotz was really angry in that game because the Isles didn't show up for Sorokin in his first career game. So I think Trotz was like taking it out on the team and like kind of teaching them like, we can't let a rookie just get doused with shots and horrible, wide open scoring chances. So I think that's part of it. And I think it's like somebody asked me on Twitter, do you bench Barzal? And I was like, you can't, because he is the best player on the team. You're trying to make him happy so that he stays here past the bridge deal, but you also have to hold him to account. So I think throwing him down to the third line was the perfect way to do that, because when you're playing with, and now in this game, he wasn't playing with Leo, but potentially if you're on the third line with Leo and Ross Johnson, guess what? That's a punishment. You're not scoring. So Pajot moving up to the first line made sense for me. I said in the preseason, if Barzal doesn't start this year with a contract, Pajot would probably start the first line with Eberle and Lee. And now it looks like that was revealed to be the backup plan when Barzal took penalties. So I called it.
Okay. So then if you don't mind, I don't know if I'm jumping the gun, but do you want to then talk about Sorokin?
Sure. No. This is a good time to talk about it. So,
okay. So wait, let me just say one thing first.
Yeah.
I'm such a terrible co-host. I'm like, you want to talk about this? Well, let me speak first. Because one of the commentators during the game mentioned that the KHL hockey rink is like 20 feet wider than the NHL, which I had no idea.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking that must actually be more challenging. But now that I think about it, I mean, yeah, I'm sure it's challenging in different ways, but at the same time, like if the puck's on the boards, they're probably not going to any angle on goal, versus in the NHL, since if the puck's on the boards, you might, or close to the boards, right? Like they might still get an angle on it. So I don't know. I thought like maybe it was easier and more difficult in some ways.
Well, I think you got the angles thing was the first thing that jumped out to me, because now like I said in our recap video, it was a little bit of Sorokin getting like, his teammates not playing well in front of him and creating chances for the Rangers. Dobson in this game twice like fell down and created a 2-on-1 for the Rangers. So Dobson owes Sorokin a dinner. But also for the angles thing, the third goal was the one that was like the epitome of like, oh, that is an angle thing. We can work that out, because one of the Islanders, Scott Mayfield, skated into the referee while losing the puck. And now Pavel Buchnevich comes in one-on-one with a goalie. There's no second option. So unlike the 2-on-1 that was the first goal for the Rangers, Sorokin can square to the shooter without worrying about a pass going across. And Sorokin kind of olayed it, where he like he dropped a little bit in his crease too quickly, and it opened up that top corner. It's still a great shot, and it's a weird angle. I think I said in my video, Arthur Staple had retweeted from a statistician that last year 1.4% of shots from that angle went in. So that is a bad goal because we don't want to give up goals from angles that we think we have defended well. Because on that play, one of whoever was Mayfield's defensive partner at that time, I think it's Letty, got back and covered the middle of the ice. So, Buchnevich couldn't just walk in. So it was on Sorokin really to hold his ground, and he kind of retreated a little bit of territory. I'm not a NHL goalie, NHL goalie coach, but that's
goalie coach for that matter.
I'm not a goalie coach, but that's what it looked like to me from the naked eye. Was we dropped a little bit in his crease too quickly. Maybe it is an angles thing. He's used to, like you said, in the KHL.
Just I don't know, like just I know nothing about it. Just I don't know.
Yeah, well, I think also a little bit is like it's a big mental game. It's kind of like kickers in football where people are like, how could he hit from 50 and miss from 40?
Yeah.
And it's like, it doesn't make sense. It's mental. And Sorokin not knowing that he was going to start that game, because like usually you'll know like the whole day and you're like warming up and you're doing whatever it takes to get into your like mindset that you get into for games. Sorokin didn't go through any of that. Then Varley gets hurt 5 minutes before the game. Guess what? Like we're tossing you in the net. And I was worried about that. And then I was worried about the fact that the Islanders early on it was clear we had nothing. Trotz said we were trash. And yeah.
I guess also like the Rangers were probably fairly embarrassed from the first game. So they probably came out with a vengeance. Well, they definitely did. I mean, like,
yeah.
What, like I think maybe this is just me projecting, but my guess is they were happy they got one more goal against us in the second game than we did in the first game against them.
It's possible. That's the petty stuff that rivalries are made of. Like the Islanders goal differential went from +4 to -1. That's
and now it's 0, I guess.
Yeah, it's exactly 0.
Man.
So, it's been an interesting week. It's weird to be 2-1 and to say that you played 2 terrible games, in my opinion.
Hey man, 2 games though, 2 victories.
Yep.
2 games, 2 victories.
So looking forward, since we're, I guess, about kind of like halfway through our first show here.
Wait, I got one more question then.
Oh, sure.
Because I did see something today about how they were taking the trackers out of the puck. Because they were saying, I don't know, I don't know if it's the players complaining or somebody else. I don't know. What do you think?
So Austin Matthews said that he and Jason Spezza had been just practicing with one regular tech puck and one tech puck, and that they have different feels. And also, well, the bigger reason is that it's supposed to be tracking technology to help with stats, like advanced analytics about shot speed and mostly that. But it doesn't work. Apparently the stuff they've been getting back, the data is not very consistent from what I've heard. So it sounds like they got to take it back and work out the kinks.
How long have they been using those?
I don't think very long. I think they did it for an All-Star game a couple of years ago, and that's the perfect time to test those kind of things out. All-Star game, the players don't care. They clearly don't. Nobody plays defense. The poor goalies at those All-Star games kind of looks like Sorokin from the other day.
Damn.
But yeah, so that's a little thing, but yeah, I think the players are probably okay with them getting rid of them.
Because this is gonna sound like I might have ESP. I don't know. Because I was watching the first 3 games. I only watched the Islanders games. I didn't get a chance to watch any other teams so far. But I definitely thought the puck bounces were, a little off, or just not what I was expecting. And then again, I don't have a great hockey sense, so I didn't think anything of it. But then when I saw that news update that they're taking the trackers out, I don't know. Could have just also been me could be confirmation bias. Oh, I thought that before, so it must be true.
Well, I think that early in the year too, sometimes the ice isn't in. Maybe sometimes you would say, Well, it's weird. It feels like we're always coming up with an excuse for why the ice isn't
Yeah,
good. Because, you know, in the beginning of the season, we say, oh, they haven't worked out the kinks yet. Middle of the season, we go, well, they've been playing on it so long. End of the season, we go, come on, they've been playing the whole season. So there's always an
Yeah.
excuse for it. And I think it just tends to be that, I don't know. Ice in a lot of the arenas doesn't seem to be as good as it used to be. I don't know why. Both of the Islanders' home stadiums have had the Belmont, not the Belmont. Barclays was like famous for being horrible ice.
Mhm.
Like the players probably had to begrudgingly never speak about that.
Apparently, well, again, another thing I remember announcers saying when fans were no longer allowed in the games back when hockey came back. What was that?
Mhm.
No, not March. When it came back in June,
It
July, August. I
might
don't
have
know.
been August,
But
July,
they one of those months.
August.
And they were saying that fans in the building can obviously like raise the temperature and that could
Mhm.
mess with the ice. But I also learned that apparently I don't remember it exactly, but I think it's 3/4 of an inch is like the perfect depth
Mhm.
of ice. Because if it's deeper, then the blade might sink in further, slowing you down. And if it's not deep enough, then then you're just gonna hit the concrete or whatever's below it.
Yeah. You're gonna be our physics guy that gets on this.
I'm on it.
Every week we're gonna have James's ice corner.
That would actually be pretty cool because like I'm just saying like because we could definitely put together like a small like a few small different tubs
Clips of players falling over,
and
and then
yeah.
little by little it
They're all
turns into
Michael
a
Del Cole.
blooper show.
Oh, I shouldn't have went there.
Little by little will turn into a blooper show. Anyway, because
Yeah,
we'll start with science, and then as it always happens, kind of like I don't know if you saw on Netflix the Death to 2020 thing. There was like a special, and it was like a faux documentary, and they went up to a scientist. It was like an actor playing something, and he starts explaining the science, and they cut to B-roll that's not related, and the scientist goes, "Are you interested in the science?" And the producer goes, "No, actually," and he's just like, "Oh," and I feel like that's if we do the ice corner, I will turn it into.
That's fine.
No, I won't.
What's the nearest hockey rink by us? Like ice rink.
It might be Newbridge or the Islanders' literal practice facility.
Oh, okay. Because that would, I don't know.
They're a little bit few and far. Freeport, I think, has one. Okay. But I went there one day with my brother to try to go to a open skate that they had on their website. And we got there and they said, oh, first of all, important to say, we got there and there was a like program, like a big group playing on the ice. Like it looked like I'll leave it at program. I'm forgetting the word. And then we went up to the woman at the front and we said, hey, we're here. We're lugging our like 30-pound hockey bags, me and my brother. We're here for the open skate. And they're like, are you kidding me? COVID's going on. We're not doing open skates. And I'm pointing to the kids on the ice and I'm like, they're doing this. And maybe
they rented out the rink or something.
Well, they get more money out of it.
Well, yeah.
Because it's a program, a clinic. That's the word.
Like
whereas the open skate
clinic?
Yeah. And the open skate's like $15, and I'm sure the other thing is like $200 a head. So it all comes down to money.
Yes.
But anyway,
I don't know how much of that we'll keep in.
Well, listen, this is podcast. They meander.
Yeah, man.
It's the flow, and we still have like 12 minutes. And all I was going to do is talk a little bit about the thing I did on Monday for the Boston game, and then talk a little bit about the upcoming schedule, and that's it.
All right, let's do it.
All right. So next up, first I want to talk about the games that we have coming up. So we get the Devils tomorrow, Thursday. It might end up being today when we post it. The Devils are coming in looking very interesting. It's so early in the season, you don't want to say like they're good because like teams start in weird fashions. Boston's 1-1-1, which is like okay, but Boston hasn't scored a goal 5-on-5 yet. Their offense has been as anemic as the Islanders, which is kind of crazy to say. But Boston also had a lot of turnover in the offseason. The Islanders didn't have a ton, so we got to figure something out. The Devils are coming in having just beaten the Rangers 4-3 in a game where the Rangers had 50 shots. And Mackenzie Blackwood, my fantasy goalie, made 47 saves. He was unbelievable. And the good thing is I don't think we see him Thursday for the Islanders home matchup with the Devils because you want to give him a rest. He started every game so far, Mackenzie Blackwood. He's been sensational in every game. And his save percentage is in like the 940s at the moment. He's been
Hey.
Yeah.
Varley has a 100% save percentage.
This is true.
So he's not as good yet.
Well, here's what I think we get a matchup of the backup goalies in this Devils game. Even though Varley is on 2 days rest, I think it's a good opportunity for Sorokin to, first of all, play your first game on home ice because like we said, with the Angles and new arenas, he's got to get used to his home ice. He's going to be playing there a lot, hopefully. So
well, for this season, and then next season it's another one. But whatever.
Yeah, so they got to get him ready on the home ice. So I think we have 2 games against the Devils. We have one on Thursday. We have one on Sunday. Sunday one is away. Thursday one is at home. I think you want Varley starting on the road. Experienced veteran, hasn't given up a goal yet, and you want Sorokin starting Thursday. I can understand people saying start Varley for both because Varley, like, it's almost like, how about he keeps playing until he gives up a goal? How about that? Like, that's a fair assessment. I think, though, they're looking long-term as well. And long-term would say Sorokin on Thursday, on first time on home ice in a game, makes sense, especially against a Devils team that, like, was anticipated not to be good, but has been okay so far. 3 games in, it could be an aberration. It could just be that they're getting bailed out by goaltending. But if Jersey is starting Scott Wedgwood, who's like a kind of mediocre backup, then you should still win with Sorokin. And I think it goes to show that, like, with that goalie, like whatever goalie matchup there is, Varlamov just outdueled Rask. If the Islanders play well defensively, they should win on many nights. They might win a lot of 1-0 games, and we'll be pulling our hair out, but anyway, so after that, I talked about Jersey. That I'm worried about both Jersey games because they're playing with a little bit of fire right now, and their goaltending's been amazing. After that, we get two games in Washington, 2 games in Philly. So we're playing 5 straight road games, and I'm a little bit worried. Schedules like that, though, it's because you're playing like basically 2-game series because of the COVID situation and doing a good, the NHL trying to space out games so that you can do like what they did with Bailey today. And, he tested inconclusive. We got to pull him out. And that way you still have a few days to figure out the game situation for that upcoming game. So I'm worried about this 5-game stretch on the road. They need to win at home against Jersey, especially if they're going against not Mackenzie Blackwood. And I know it's early on to say they must win, but the division is already looking super tight. You've got Boston playing kind of mediocre, but they're going to get their 50-goal scorer, David Pastrnak, back in February. So it's like a sleeping giant right now for Boston. You got Buffalo, who is 1-3, but they're showing a little bit of they beat Philly 5-0. They got smacked by Washington a little bit, but they showed a little bit of fight. The Devils, their goaltending has been keeping them in games. The Rangers, it's a rivalry game. You never know. And the Rangers have been playing okay. Philly looks really, really good. Pittsburgh looked horrible to start the year, and now they won 2 straight OT games. And the Capitals look decent. There's nobody in the division that you look at right now and you say, oh, easy. So, it's almost
that doesn't mean the Islanders are the ones that people look at like that.
Yeah.
Which they obviously don't. I mean, we had really, we put up a huge, even though it was bad, we put up the fight against Boston.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had the good Rangers game and the terrible Rangers game. So,
yeah. So, yeah, it's been all over so far. But last year was really all over to start, too. And obviously, we went into the COVID pause playing really terrible. So this team can be a little bit streaky. I think we forget because we're so used to, we think of Trotz and we think of stability. But the last year, last season and the beginning of the season, been a little bit all over the place. The playoffs, clearly the best we've played in a while. But my screen. But I don't know. There's a few guys that I'm going to point out that need to wake up, but I don't know. What are your thoughts? Have you noticed the player so far that, I mean, outside of Varley, that you're like, wow, all right, this guy, at least he's bringing his A game? Or is it the opposite? Have you noticed a player that you're like, how is this guy still playing?
Well, I mean, I know like Peugeot is doing amazing. Like I've seen like I don't know if he's made any errors so far. He probably has, but like very like he's been playing great
Mhm.
for sure. Pellick is always underrated. He's been doing fine. Like nothing like I haven't seen anything amazing yet, I guess. The
Mhm.
one thing I did want to point out though is Ross Johnston. He's like been way feistier than I remember him being last season, which kind of
Yeah.
worries me. Like it seems like he's instigating more than he did
Yeah.
last season. And I don't know, maybe they told him to. You know what I mean? Maybe he's been coached to do that. But like I'm fine with like defending and maybe playing a little bit rough and stuff like
Mhm.
that. But like when you're instigating the fights, I always feel like that's like a good way to get hated or like
Yeah.
put a target on your back even, you know?
I think so. I think you're right about him being a little bit feistier, and I think that is from probably a little bit of energy from getting a starting job, and like he started all 3 games.
Yeah,
Last year he was in and out of the
that is
lineup a little
true. Yeah.
bit. So I think some of it comes from that. Unfortunately, he did take a literal instigating penalty in the Ranger game, and we're already down 4-0. So like, some fans might say, what does it matter? Like the game's over. But here's why it matters. Again, they get a power play, and this is a game where we had a power play that was actually, or our penalty kill had been playing well. And then you force the penalty kill back out there again, and we give up a goal, not only ruining our perfect record to start the year on the PK, which is good for confidence, but it's just another goal that hurts Sorokin's confidence. And so I think Ross, I'm gonna be honest, I'm a little bit surprised he wasn't in the doghouse. I'm a little bit surprised that he and Clutterbuck specifically even played against Boston, because um, Clutterbuck hitting his own goalie in the face during warmups, that's a
Yeah.
big no-no. You don't shoot high during warmups. When the goalie's in net, you're just trying to work him out. You're not trying to shoot the score. And Clutterbuck just dings his own goalie. And Trotz sounded angry in the press conference. And to what you said, Ross, the feistiness, there's a fine line between the feistiness and like going over the edge and putting your team in a bad spot. And I think he's got to readjust back towards the line, because it's been a little bit of an adventure. And I think also the fact that we're not scoring, and we have our fourth line, which generally doesn't score that much. And now you have the third line not doing anything either outside of one Pajot home run swing. Yeah, they need to experiment with the lines. And the good thing is Trotz has been doing that a little bit. And I want to see Johnston. I know you're going to hate to hear this. I want to see Johnston out of the lineup for a little bit. I want to see the
No,
kids.
honestly, like he is like I love him as a player,
Mhm.
but like I actually totally agree with you.
Yeah. I
Like,
think just it's tough if you're a team that already can't score and you're implementing 3 or 4 different players that just don't score, and that's not part of their game, then you're
hey, Matt Martin had 5
playoff goals.
goals in the
Yeah.
playoff.
And the worry here is like that just you're going to put way too much pressure on your top 6 to score, and the Islanders can't do that, because when we won last year, when we played well in the playoffs, it was through depth scoring. Everybody
Mhm.
scores. Everybody finds a way to score. We don't rely on one group. Everybody does a little bit of something. And right now, there's way too much pressure on the first 2 lines, because the bottom 2 lines can't score. And that's not to say anything bad about the fourth line, because that's not the fourth line's job. The fourth line's job is
Mhm.
get out there, create some energy, and kill penalties and stuff like that. And like the only one on that fourth line that can really like score of consistency is Cizikas, kind of. Um, so I do think if you're trying to generate offense, Bellows and Wallstrom need to get shots. They need to play. And now, if Bailey is out for any sort of time, I think Bellows goes right back in, since Trotz already seems to trust him a little bit. Bellows only played 8 minutes the other night in the
That's
Boston game.
really
That is a little
that's
bit
surprising.
worrying,
Yeah.
because I thought he was good in the first Ranger game. He had 8 hits, and
Hmm.
like I, if he's not scoring, which he isn't at the moment, at least he's contributing with the hits and he's not taking penalties. In fact, he drew a couple of penalties. So I like that. It's not as sexy as scoring goals and getting assists, but it's like somewhat productive. And I don't think Ross has done even that. So that's where, for me, I'd like to see Bellows, Wallstrom, Pajot, and that third line gets to actually score. That'd be nice. But
all right. So then, any players then stick out to you as specifically good or bad, other than obviously what you talked about so far?
So even though I said regardless of Varley, I got to give Varley just a little bit because it feels like it doesn't need to be said. But I want to say that even if Varley was giving up goals right now, his positioning and like his quickness in net, he looks so dialed in. They could have lost the first two games like 2-1, 4-0, and I would still think that he was playing phenomenal because he just looks dialed in. I don't know how to describe it other than like he knows where the puck is at all times. He's not like there were times last year where it felt like he would like I don't know, just the awareness wasn't fully. It's hard to describe like for an athlete like when you're on. That's what Varley looks like right now. He looks like he's tracking the puck really well. He's making himself big, and his positioning is like unbelievably good, which is really good because maybe he can like help Sorokin in that regard. Because I think that's an area where Sorokin, the angles, Varley's taking the right angles. Sorokin wasn't in this one game. Outside of him, outside of Varley, I'm going to give love to Anders Lee, who played a really, really good first game against the Rangers, and it was one of the most fiery regular season performances from him I've seen. He scored 2 goals, and he should have had a third. He got robbed a couple times. Outside of that, I actually I have the scoring thing up here, and there's a couple guys I need to see more from. Beauvillier, basically that whole second line right now actually hasn't done much. Brock, Bo, Bailey, and obviously we're going to start the year with them doing that because last year they were incredible. So like you weren't going to break up that line, and now you might have to experiment a little bit because they're not doing much. And Eberle, I haven't noticed at all, not even a little bit. Unfortunately, Bailey as well. Eberle's got 1 point. Bailey doesn't have any points.
Bailey had throughout. I mean, like I remember the Boston game specifically. He had a good setup, like an amazing setup for Bo, and like so. I think that if I'm gonna guess that probably happened at least in the first Ranger game at least once. So
yeah. So sometimes it is like
it just hasn't happened yet. I think. Hopefully it becomes more consistent though.
Yeah.
Or or like you said, Trotz will probably break up the line.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of that going on right now, especially like because Barzal has 8 penalty minutes so far and 1 goal. So he's got to get going.
So weird.
And also, it's going to be a lot of line maneuvering.
I think it was in the second Ranger game. It might have been in the Boston game. I forget which player it was. One of the Boston players was trying to like start a fight with Barzy. And I was like, I thought that was the weirdest thing. I don't know if it was just because he was just trying to intimidate him. I don't know.
I think maybe just they're probably just trying to get in Barzal's head. Maybe they saw there's a good chance that they saw that Barzal took 3 penalties in the game prior, and they were like, we can get in his head. So that's possible. I'm trying to think of what. There was one other thing that I was going to talk about. A little fun. Maybe we'll end episodes like this with a little fun story time.
Okay, story time. We'll have story time.
Yeah. My brother and a bunch of his friends that are all big Islanders fans, they have a really funny Insta page, but some of it is only inside jokes. It's called Isles Guys. It's really funny though. I'm starting to explain the jokes to people, and they always say explaining the joke is so much fun. But the Boston game, I dropped my brother off. They were doing a tailgate. They were on News 12. Because News 12 was like, can you believe these morons? And they were like, can you believe us? It was so funny. That they're really good. They're unbelievable diehards. So they went to the Marriott across from the Coliseum and watched the game in the bar there, which is something that people are allowed to do right now. And I had to go back. I had to be at least because I'm working remotely right now for my job as a reporter. I went over there, watched the back half of the third period with them. I had watched the rest at home. And the after the game, so we, they win. It was fun. We're all wearing masks and stuff and hanging out. And somebody says, "Hey, we got to go to where the players like drive out of. There's like an underground tunnel where the players park under the stadium, and there's like the area that it lets up from. And so we all go over there, and there's a big group of Islander fans now along the fence waiting for the players to come out. And I've never done this in any of the games I've ever gone to. I was like, all right, this is cool. And all the one by one, we start seeing the players come out of their cars, or not come out of there. They're in their cars. Some of them pull down their window and like wave. There were so many players that like, there were so many cars that went by that are so tinted you don't know who it is, but you're still like, yeah, you're awesome. And it could be like the equipment manager, but they're still awesome. But the fun part of the story is we're right across from the Bruins bus. And the Bruins, as you would know, James, they lost the Stanley Cup, not last year, 2 years ago, to the St. Louis Blues. And the St. Louis Blues had like a goal song in that playoff run called Gloria. It's from the 80s. And we had the idea to troll the Boston players by my brother's friend had a huge boombox. We started blasting the goal song that probably lives in their nightmares after losing the Stanley Cup to them. And I think that was a good troll job. But at the same time, like I said in our game recap, if the Bruins like wake up now and win the Stanley Cup, it's our fault because we gave them the motivation. I did see a couple of the players kind of like crack up because like they appreciate the troll. They appreciate the fans in the middle of a pandemic, like still showing up to an arena where they're not allowed in. It was weird. It was a weird situation, but I think the players, I booed everyone on the Bruins except for Yaroslav Halak because he's our former backup and I love him. But that was a fun story until I told it. And then I got bored while telling the story, but it was a lot of fun. And hopefully I'll get I might do the same thing for the Thursday game against the Devils. And part of the reason I wanted to tell that story is because one of the only Islanders that like pulled their full window down and like,
wait, let me guess.
Fist pump to us.
Let me guess. I want to say it was Bailey, but I don't think it was.
It was Bailey.
It was. Oh yeah. Wow, that's awesome.
No, he's very, very cool, and
he seems like one of the nicest, like down to earth people.
He seems like a very, very cool guy. He's got dad power. He's got dad energy. So he gave us a nice cheer, and we saw Anders Lee drive by, right? Or no, so we saw a player drive by, and I just saw a chin, so I was like, "That's Anders Lee," and it wasn't. Ryan Pulock, low key, has like a comparable chin,
dude.
Comparable chin to Anders Lee.
He's the boy chin wonder.
Yes.
Anders Lee is
the crimson chin.
The crimson chin, and then
Yep.
Pulock is the boy chin wonder. That's awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, that was cool. Apparently, Barzy's car was one of the ones that's so tinted we couldn't even see.
That does not surprise me in the least.
Hey,
like that is like
superstar, man.
Yeah, exactly. That is really funny though.
And yeah.
Now he has his payday, so he can afford the tinted windows, I guess.
Yeah. But. So that's pretty much it. If I want to, I guess, end with a couple of pointers towards my prediction video on how teams would do, and like laugh at people for me getting it right, and also then being extremely wrong on some things. I so far look like I've done a good job with the Leafs. The Leafs are 3-1. They haven't been the most convincing 3-1 I've ever seen, but they're in first, and I had them winning the Canadian division.
A lot can happen. A lot can happen.
A ton can happen.
4 games.
Currently, we're 3 games in, but 3 of the 4 teams I picked to make the playoffs in the North Canadian division look good. So like I feel good about those. The one that I felt like I took a leap on was Calgary, who in my initial, like I did the video and then I had Calgary outside the playoffs and then I moved them up and I was like, I'm doing it. I'm going for it. And they look good. So I feel good about that. The Islanders division in the East, it's called the Islanders division.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Or I should say, I think it's called the Mass Mutual East division because we need money desperately.
I want to support all the teams, so I opened up a bank account for everyone that their helmet says.
Yes.
Every team that has their helmet sold.
It's probably too early to say too much about the East because all the teams are already clustered. I guess the only thing is that I had Boston winning the division, and I mean they're gonna have to score a goal on at 5-on-5 if they're
Hey, maybe not. Maybe they'll try something new.
They'll only score power play goals the whole year, or shorthanded.
Or shorthanded, yeah.
Yeah. In the Central Division, I already am. Here's the one I really regret out of the whole league so far already is the Predators. So I picked the Panthers to get the last playoff spot. I think everybody kind of agrees. Tampa, Carolina, and Dallas whenever they play their first game because they had 17 players with COVID. I picked the Florida Panthers to make the playoffs. And in the video, I acknowledged, I was like, here's year 5 of me believing in a team that I shouldn't believe in. And guess what? I shouldn't have believed in them because I forgot their goaltending is horrible. It's amazing. I'm so spoiled by the Islanders that I forget what like truly horrible goaltending looks like. And it looks like a $10 million a year goalie who has just lost all confidence in this game. And that's Sergei Bobrovsky in Florida. Florida's lucky, at least, that they have an amazing goaltending prospect coming up, but it also makes it more like curious why they would sign a long-term former all-star goalie when they have this other goalie waiting in the wings to like a 7-year deal. It's weird. It's a weird situation. And this is a long form way of saying I should have picked the Predators to make the playoffs instead of the Panthers. It's early. It's very early, but like got it
early, yeah.
But in the West, I think all is actually going pretty well. Devon Toews has 2 goals already for Colorado, and he's got 3 points. And I have him in fantasy, which is nice, but I want him in real life. And it makes me real sad that he's doing amazing. And it's way too, like I said in our second recap of the year, the Rangers loss. Some people were already, because Islanders Twitter, we're flying by the seat of our pants. We're constantly like, one guy has a good game, he's the best. The same guy has a terrible game, he's the worst ever. And Noah Dobson's got that because the first game he was amazing, second game he was awful, and he's taking Devon Toews' spot in the lineup. So the whole year we're going to see this comparison, and it's not fair because Devon Toews is playing on a power play unit that is maybe the best in the league, playing with one of the best young defensemen in the league as his defensive partner in Cale Makar. And he's just playing in a system that allows him to play offensive, which is, I think, the way that maybe a way that was hindered a little bit playing in a Barry Trotz defensive system with the Isles. And he is now offensively unleashed. And I think he's going to have a really good year. And it's just hard to watch when you traded him away, even if it like was necessary to signing Barzal, because it was one less mouth to feed money too. So I don't know. That's what I got so far in this first episode. Hopefully this road trip doesn't like hurt me physically, mentally.
Yeah, I can't believe we have 5 road games all straight after the first Devils game. That's crazy.
And like we said, there's not a single easy game this year, so it's going to be excruciating, even if we win.
I am personally very excited to see Sorokin play. I think he'll probably have a better mindset, like a ready mindset. So that I think you're right. My guess is as good as yours. I mean, but I think he will be playing against the Devils, and that'll be exciting. That I will feel like, okay, that's his first real game,
Yeah, it's a clean slate, I think, because also the players now are under a lot of pressure, probably from Trotz, who's like, I swear to God, if you ruin this kid's life, I'll ruin yours. That's probably the mid-period speech from Barry.
But okay, I think we're gonna wrap it up.
Yep,
we're gonna wrap up the weekly wrap up. Thank you guys for watching or listening. And stay tuned for more Islanders and general hockey content. And drop us a line if you're interested in, being a part.
All right,
Tom. End this with our catchphrase.
Oh, our catchphrase is "I love you," right?
I love you, right?
Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time on Belmont Bunch.